Um, Luvanex home repairs. Uh-oh, I've lost my connection. Can you guys still hear me well?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
I
can
we
hear
can
from
hear
my
you.
end.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So the first thing we do in the repair section of our business is to standardize a property to be rent ready. We make the property rent ready. That means that if it needs any kind of repairs, remodeling, it is done at Luvanex Home Repairs. Not every house you buy, if you don't buy a brand new home, that house needs to be standardized for rentals. So that's the first thing we do at Luvanex Home Repairs. Luvanex Rentals and Property Management is the arm whereby we rent out the property itself. If your client buys a house from us at Luvanex Realty, that house will need to be rented. Now, the reason why all of these are separated is because, according to the Commission here for Real Estate, when you offer several services to investors, you need to separate them as different companies. It can still be under the same name, but it needs to be separated. So we have separate taxes that have been filed for each of these companies. That's the point of all of this. So Luvanex Rentals is how we help investors rent our property. Once they buy the property, within the next 2 days, 24 to 48 hours, that property is put on the rental market. We assign an agent. We start showing the property to potential rentals. We typically show the property twice during the weekdays, once on the weekend, to make sure that people that want to come see it can view it. We target families for our properties, people that are families, middle income families, a family that's a husband and wife and one child who want to grow in the houses that we rent out. The average tenants in our properties spend 3 to 5 years. So if they come into a house that your investor purchased and we help them rent it out, that investor will enjoy the tenancy because they'll want to grow in the house. They'll put their child in the school system in the US, and as they put the child in the school system, they want the child to grow through the school system. Also, a new family that has a husband, wife, and one child will likely grow to 2 or 3 kids in that same house. So we target families. We have Luvanex eviction services as well, which is an arm that we help investors that buy properties not from us. They bring the properties to us to manage it for them. So let's say your clients purchased a house in Atlanta with the wrong company, for instance, and they put the wrong tenant in that property. Before we can manage the house for them, we have to evict the tenant. As you're aware, Americans pay their rent on a monthly basis, not on an annual basis like we do in African countries. So at Luvanex Eviction Services, if they have missed their rental payments for 1 or 2 months, we evict them right away. We partner with attorneys that work with us in our company. We begin to evict them and get them out, get the property empty. Then we take it back to Luvanex Home Repairs. We fix the property up again. Then we put it back on the rental market. Luvanex Holdings is a holding company where we help investors with buy, fix, and sell, or buy, flip, fix, and rent. So is it a buy, fix, and flip, or buy, fix, and rent? There are two options. An investor can want to invest in a property and they want to flip it to make capital appreciation gains from the property. We do that through Luvanex Holdings. On the other side, an investor can also want to buy an older house. We remodel the house and then rent it out long term. All of that is done through our holding company for various tax reasons. Then we have property previewers, Livanex previews, which is what we do with investors who live in Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and other countries. Because these investors don't have the time, the bandwidth to come down to view the properties that they're trying to buy, what we do is we'll assign an agent to them. That agent goes around showing them the property um, by means of WhatsApp video or FaceTime video. They can view every nook and corner of the house as they are inspecting the house, and they can say, stop here in the kitchen, I want to see the kitchen better. Or they can fly down to the US and come inspect the properties. It doesn't matter to us. For us, we just have to create a preview company to help them preview the property they're about to purchase. Then corporate housing, which is currently on hold right now, is where we do Airbnb rentals and corporate housing, short-term rentals. We buy a house or buy an apartment and furnish it up, then rent it on Airbnb. That program is currently on hold right now, but we offer that service as well. So this program is called the Foreign Investor Program, and it's a very, 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 very good program. In the next few minutes, one of my banker friends will call in shortly. Um, Kenny, let me know when Patrick calls in. When Patrick joins the meeting, let me know because he's
All
one of
right.
the guys that are coming from the bank. So in this program, your client puts down 30% down payment and they can buy a house in America. They don't have to be a US resident. They don't have to be a US citizen. All they need to do is have their 30% down payment. When we launched this program a year and a half ago, we were doing properties worth $250,000. Now the average is 350 to $400,000 based on the economy. But let's just take an average of $300,000. At 300K, 30% down would be $90,000. That amount of money is cheaper than buying land in some prime areas of um, Nigeria, Ghana, and all those kind of places. For instance, if you wanted to buy land in Ikoyi, $90,000 probably won't buy you land in those areas. The same thing in Abuja, some very prime areas. Same thing in Port Harcourt, very prime areas. Please, if you're joining us, you can mute so that we don't get distracted. If you're joining us, if you're new on the call, you are welcome. Please just kindly stay muted. I want to welcome those who have just joined. Ijoma Duru, you're welcome. Francis, you're welcome, Francis. How are you doing? Francis is the guy from the bank. Francis, can you hear me? If you're speaking, you're muted. Okay. Maybe he's
Okay,
still.
there we go. I'm unmuted. Yes, hi.
Hey, Francis, how you doing? So I'm just doing a
I'm doing well.
presentation. Yeah, once I'm done with presenting, I'll let you speak, say a few things about the
No
program
problem.
that you guys offer. Okay.
Okay.
So it's very important to point out that we are not the bank. We are brokers that help you find properties. We help the investors find properties in Atlanta, Georgia, and Charlotte, North Carolina. The bank is a separate entity. We are not the one that gives the rates. The rate is determined by the bank, and Francis is a mortgage broker, just like we are real estate brokers. That means that he can shop the loan around a few places as well, but he will talk about that more in detail. But typically, the rates we've seen in these programs are 8% to 9% interest rate. The rates are a bit more higher now in the US. But the advantage to your investor clients is that they get returns in US dollars. Americans pay rent on a monthly basis, unlike a lot of African countries. So that means that they can receive returns on a monthly basis. However, this program is extremely important that I've spelled it out. There are two investment goals with this program. The first is rental cash flow, and the second is appreciation, capital appreciation. In rental cash flow, the investor buys a property. Say the property is going for $3,000 a month rental, and the cost of the mortgage and all of that is put into going to about 25, $26 on a monthly basis. When they pay the mortgage, they have about $400 left. That's not a lot of money, but the appreciation is where they make a lot of money. If they buy a brand new house, for instance, that house will appreciate on average 10% in value till it caps out. So they can invest in a property in the US and cash out 90 to 120,000 US dollars in 3 to 4 years, sell the house back, give the bank back their money. So they're making higher returns in US dollars and they're investing in a much more stable economy. If you know what's happening now in Nigeria, happening in Ghana, and by extension, Kenya as well, a lot of these countries, they have fluctuating rates with their currencies. Nigeria, for instance, the rate has been fluctuating all year. The last time I checked, US dollars was about 1,000 naira to $1. Something that used to be 450 naira to a dollar. It's now about 1,000 naira to a dollar. In Ghana as well, the rates are fluctuating. In Kenya, I'm not so familiar with the terrain in Kenya, but our Kenyan can advise us. But you have all of these instabilities happening in these countries. This program offers an investor in your country to come in and invest in a much more stable economy, then make their money in US dollars, and then they can convert back to Naira or CDs or shillings or rands. Very important. Also, we offer value for money because we are licensed in two states in the southeastern states in the US, which is Georgia and North Carolina. You get value for money. What I mean by that is that if you go to New York, prices are way more higher in New York and California than in the southeastern states. What you would spend buying a 3 to 4 bedroom house in Atlanta, Georgia, and you spend about 350,000 US dollars, you may end up spending $700,000 to $800,000 in New York. In California, up to $1 million based on where you buy the properties at. So in the southeastern states, there's value for money. If you bought in Georgia, if you bought in North Carolina, and by extension, if you bought in Texas, you get value for money. You'd even buy cheaper than buying in Maryland as well, because the further you go south, the cheaper properties become, basically. Also, we offer a turnkey service solution. So you have peace of mind. You don't have to look for different companies to help you put tenants in the house, different companies to help you repair the properties, all of that. Now, the banks that we have worked with in the past, they had a minimum loan amount that they would grant out. That means that the minimum property that they would do a loan for is worth 150,000 US dollars. At 150,000 US dollars, 30% down is $45,000, and then they'll get a loan of $105,000. I must mention that there are no properties that we are dealing with in this program now that offers that. However, if your investor wants to buy outside of what we offer, we can help them with that as well. What we specialize in is brand new properties, brand new homes in North Carolina, brand new homes in Atlanta, Georgia. And we believe that these brand new homes offer the best warranty and the best peace of mind service solutions. So for a brand new home, you're looking at least three between 350 to 400,000 US dollars in today's currency. So that means that 30% down payments will be roughly from between 120 to 150,000 US dollars, basically. Well, 100 really to 150,000 US dollars based on what you're looking at. Most banks offer a prepayment penalty. They want you to hold the loan for 5 years, and then after 5 years, you can pay off the loan. But if you want to pay off the loan before the end of the 5 years, you can do that as well. You just pay a small penalty fee. Um, to qualify for this kind of loans, all they require is a passport biodata page and the last 2 month bank statements that the investor buyer has, the funds seasoned in an account. When I say seasoned, it means that the funds are not being moved and tossed to and fro for the last 60 days. It's in a DOM account, and they can provide bank statements of 2 months of funds that are legally purchased or gotten funds, not illegal funds, because an attorney will ask them they've and verify the source of the funds anyways. So it's very important that anybody you're referring to the program makes their money legitimately. Very important. They don't have to have a US visa. They can close at the nearest US embassy, and they can close in the US as well. They can fly down to the US if they have the time, and they can close. Another option is they can actually give something called a power of attorney to their investor friends, and that friend or family member can close on their behalf in the US. So there are three options. The first option is close at the nearest US embassy. Number two is to fly down to the US and close themselves if they have a US visa. Number three is to give power of attorney to a friend. Um, Different banks have different requirements. So some banks allow that, some banks don't. But the banks we've worked with in the past have allowed that as well. Now, how the program works. Number one is that your investor indicates interest. And once they do, we set up something called a one-on-one consultation with them. That consultation answers the basic questions that they have. If they have questions about how the program works, we answer those questions for them then. If they have questions about how our funds are handled, because we don't touch any of the funds are sent from their bank in Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, directly to the bank in the attorneys in the US. Luvanex does not touch any of their funds, and so that's very clearly indicated and explained to them on the one-on-one call. But once we have that meeting and all the answers have been answered, all the questions have been answered, we draft up something called a buyer agency agreement, and this is compulsory. It has to be signed. Now, we've had investors in the past that said, "Hey, Damola, I don't want to sign anything. Just give me what I'm going to do." Unfortunately, we can't work that way. You have to sign an agreement because for us in the US, that agreement is what lets us or authorizes us to look for a property on your behalf. If you don't sign the agreement, we cannot represent you to go house shopping. So once the agreement is signed, you speak to the bank, you get a pre-approval issued or pre-qualification issued, then that's what we use to look for a house for you. The bank will verify that you have the 30% or the down payment funds, and then they can issue us a pre-approval letter. Then we connect you with the attorney. We start shopping for a house, we connect you with the attorney. We have something called a commitment fee of $500. That fee is refundable to them at closing. Due to the many interest we get on Instagram and Facebook ads and all of that, there are a lot of time wasters that waste our time in this program. If your investor client is serious, they would have no problems paying $500, and then the funds are given back to them at closing. So once that is done, we assign an agent to them because I live in Charlotte, so I can't do it. I can't do everything myself. We have agents who work for us in Atlanta, Georgia, and also in Charlotte. And so once they sign the agreement, pay the commitment fee, we assign an agent to your investor client, and then property preview services begin. The first thing is we start sending them a bunch of properties to view, and they can view those properties on the MLS. In Georgia, it's called FMLS. In Charlotte, it's called Canopy MLS. These MLS systems are called multiple listing services, and they list all the properties for sale in the state at that particular moment. And so we'll set them up to receive emails on a weekly basis. They may receive emails every other day or 3 times in a week. And when they get the emails, they can select from the houses that they are viewing and say, I want to see this house, this house, this house. I don't care for this house, but let the agent show me these 3 houses. Then the agent assigned to them begins to show them the property. They would go with their iPhone or their any kind of phone they use and do a WhatsApp video call, or they can choose to record the videos of the house tours and then send the house tour video to them directly so they can see it at their own convenient time. Once they identify the property that makes sense for them, please, if you're joining us, kindly stay muted. Thank you. Once they identify, could you please, Kenny, could you mute that person, please? All right. Sorry about that, guys. Please, guys, just stay muted so that we can move fast. Thank you. So once they identify the property, we begin negotiations with the seller. We now go back to how things are done in the US. We start negotiating with the seller. We offer them a price, and if they are flexible, they'll reduce the price, and then we will get on the contract. We would draft something called a purchase and sale agreement, put the terms on the contract, send that to the clients to sign. Once the client signs, we attach that with the pre-approval letter. We send that to the seller's agent. And once they accept that, we are officially under contract. Once we are under contract, there are two things that the bank, or there are two things that we do. The first is a core requirement by the bank, and that's called the appraisal. The appraisal is called evaluation in African countries. And that valuation means that we have to get someone to come out to a neutral third party to appraise the house, to value the house and say this house is worth the contract sales price because the bank will not lend if it's not on the contract sales price. While we're waiting for the appraisal to come back, or even before it starts, we do the inspection. The inspection is not compulsory, but we always recommend it. During the inspection, we send out a third neutral party to the house, and that person inspects every nook and cranny of the house to make sure that what you're buying or what your client is buying makes sense for them. There are no foundational cracks, no foundational issues, roofing issues, HVAC problems, any kind of thing that would give your clients a problem in the first house, in the first few years. Now, if it's a brand new property that they are purchasing, we can skip the inspection. It's a brand new house in the first place. Okay, so once we go past that, if anything is located on the inspection stage or the appraised value comes back from what different from what we have on contract, then we go back to the negotiation tables to make sure that we can agree on the price, the purchase price for the house. This is very, very important. If we don't agree on the purchase price for the house, we cannot proceed with the transaction. But once we do, then we move on to the next stage. The bank goes into underwriting of the loan, then they start going through asking questions and just make sure the loan is ready for closing. At that point, you are negotiating. The client is speaking with the attorney, and they can work on remitting the funds, the 30% down payment funds to the attorney in the US. That goes from their DOM account to the attorney's account in the US. The funds do not go to my company. My company does not touch any other funds. It goes straight to the attorney. Very important. And then the banks will remit their balance, the 70% balance to the attorney as well. So once we have something called clear to close, these two things are done. 30% sent from your client, and then the bank sends their 70%. And then we schedule a closing, and the house is immediately placed on the rental market. Now, the closing is very interesting. Um, because this is a program where you can actually um, close at the US Embassy. What will happen is the bank will send the documentation to the attorney's office. The attorney will prepare the file for closing, and then they would email the client, your client, all the documents to print out. Before then, we would have set up a date with the US Embassy for a notary public. And then you take the files with your client. The client goes to the US Embassy on that particular date. And then what they will do is they will have them come in for signing. They don't sign the documents until they get in front of a notary public. Then they can sign there and send the documents straight back to us via FedEx or DHL or USPS or UPS. Now, the most important thing is they will make a copy of this documentation first, and then they will send the rest of them, the original documents, to the attorney in the US. Once we get that, we can then move forward to closing. Now, how do we get your client's money to work for them? The first thing we do is a market analysis and a rental valuation. We ensure that the market is perfect. Where the property is being purchased is great. We evaluate the rentals in the area as well, so that the buyer can get very high rental returns on their property. Before they buy, this is done. Also, when they buy the property, we standardize the property and prepare it for rental. This is important if the property is not a brand new home. Anything like a blue room has to be painted to a neutral color. Otherwise, it would take the property a lot longer to rent out on the rental market. So what we do through the home repair sector of our business is we standardize the property for investment. Then the property is placed on the rental market within 48 hours of closing. Once that's done, we assign a different rental agent, and they begin to show the property twice during the week and once on the weekends. When we have people apply to rent your client's property, we do certain kinds of check. The first is called a background check to see that they have a clean background. Then we do something called a credit check to see how responsible they are with their bills, how they pay their bills on time. And we do something called an income verification. They have to make 3 times the rental value. If the house is renting out for $2,000 a month, they have to be able to prove income of $6,000 a month before taxes. And then we do a rental history check dating back 5 years. If the if the person um, rented from an apartment. We're able to get perfect rental history from them. So that's how we get their money to work for them. And in this scenario, I gave us just a quick breakdown. This is an older model that we used here. Um, Property value here was 250,000 US dollars, and a down payment of 30% was 75,000 US dollars. In today's dollar economy, this today's terms, the minimum property value we're working with is 300,000 US dollars all the way to 500,000 US dollars. So keep that in mind. 30% down for 300K will be $90,000. All right. And so the loan proceeds from the bank will be $175,000 here. For an 8% interest rate, principal plus interest will be $1,167 on a monthly basis. Now, the mortgage has a few components to it, and I'm sure Francis will explain that in great detail to us. But on average, it has principal, interest, taxes, and insurance in the US. All of those are components of the mortgage. Okay. So combined in this scenario is $1,367 on a monthly basis. This property I was estimating could rent out for right around 1750. Now in the US, rental values have gone way up because of the interest rates and all of that right now. And then the property will appreciate at a conservative rate of 5% per year. That's very, very conservative. If it's a brand new house, it's more aggressive than that. All right. So mortgage payments are covered by rental proceeds. Very important on this program. If the investor is buying this property to um, accumulate, cash flow or appreciation, we ensure that the mortgage covers the rental proceeds covers the mortgage. Very important. So if the property rents out for $3,000 a month, for instance, then the rental proceeds will be um, the mortgage rather will be right around 2,500. So rental proceeds 3,000, mortgage of $20 a month. When they pay that, they have something left over. They also have something called a homeowner's insurance, and that's required by law. If a property is being financed in the US, you must have an insurance on the property. So in case of a fire complaint, if it gets burnt down, the insurance companies replace the value of the house for them. Then when the tenant moves in, we insist on something called a tenant or renter's insurance. This is compulsory for every tenant that comes through our company, and that covers their furniture. So in the event of a fire or whatever it is, they are not suing the owner of the house for that issue. They are actually just going to get their renter's insurance to pay for that. Then we look at something called the first 3 months of rental behavior pattern with a tenant in a property. The first 3 months with us in the US, we gauge how many complaints the tenant files. And this is typical on houses that are not brand new. If it's a brand new house, there's hardly going to be a complaint being filed. But if it's a house that is older, then that tenant may have some complaints being filed. For instance, yesterday, a tenant filed a complaint with us. The toilet was not flushing. Now, I must mention this. In the US, any complaint on the house is the owner's obligation. Keep that in mind. I know it's done differently in Africa, but in the US, if the tenant complains about something, you are liable for it. And that's why we recommend doing brand new homes only. So if the tenant files a lot of complaints in the first 3 months, and it's not a brand new house, we always recommend they get something called a home warranty. The home warranty makes sure that their deductibles are very, very limited. They'll pay a small amount each time the tenant files a complaint, and then the insurance company will take care of the rest of it. If the tenant ever defaults on their property on paying their rent because the rents are paid every month, we have the eviction business that we do as well with partnership with attorneys in Atlanta and Charlotte. Now, very important to note that we hardly evict people because we do a thorough work in placing quality tenants in their property in the first place. If that is done, there will be no need for an eviction. But if they're referring a property to us and saying, hey, I bought this property 3 years ago, I put the wrong tenant on the property, evict this person and put somebody else in there, then we have to evict someone in that property for them. Now, we get a few questions from clients and agents alike. The first question is, does this program guarantee residency in America? The answer is no, it doesn't. This is not the program for that. There's a very separate program that does that. It's a lot more expensive than putting down 120,000 US dollars. At this point, you pay close to $1 million to get US residency with the EB5 program. So this program does not do that. And we have clients who specialize in the EB5 program. In case your client wants US residency, we can connect them with that as well. Does this guarantee you a visa to the US? If your client wants a US visa, does this program guarantee them? No, it doesn't. But it does give you a very high chance of qualifying for one. In the past, we've had investors go to a US embassy and say, hey, I'm going to my house. And they present the house warranty deed, the title deed of the house, and they get a US visa right away. And they and their kids get a US visa. So, but we don't put it as something that we offer. We don't offer US visas. We help investors buy properties in America. So getting a US visa is up to the US embassy. But this program does give them a very high chance. We do not guarantee any of that. That's not what we do here. And then, does this program get me a work permit in America? No, it does not. So let's now get to the part that concerns you as an agent. The reason why you're on this call is because you want to push this program and get paid from doing it. So how we get paid from doing is that a 0.5% of the sales fee of the property sales fee is charged as an agent commission from the buyer. The buyer pays that. The other part of the commission is paid by the seller. But in our contract with the buyer, it's disclosed to them that there is a fee that they have to pay. So if the property value is 300,000 US dollars, a 0.5% fee is $1,500 for a one-time commission that you can get from this kind of for this kind of thing. If you ask me, that's very lucrative because you don't have to do any of the work. We do all the work here in the US. All you have to do is refer clients to us and we take it from there. So just from making a few phone calls, you can make that amount of money from pushing the property, just making a few phone calls. I think it's very decent an amount. The buyer investor pays that at the time of the closing, and then we pay you from our account in Africa. Your responsibility is helping us get documents signed and making the referral at the point when you introduce the clients to us. So I'm going to stop presenting questions. What I want to do is I want to let Patrick, that has graciously joined us, say a few words. And when Patrick I can answer questions. So Patrick, please feel free to just explain the program on your side as well, please. Sorry, Francis, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. So just go ahead and explain the
Okay.
program on your side on the banks. Yeah, how the
Sure.
banks work. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Well, hello all. Damola, thanks for having me here. The
absolutely.
he described it very well. It's actually a very basic program. The financing for these properties. Uh, the In addition to what Damola explained, there are some important factors for success that you might want to keep in mind. Down payment will have a lot to do with how smooth the loan will go. Uh, these loans are considered investor loans, and they have a specific requirement that in these loans that the rental income must cover the expenses. So when the prices of the properties go higher, it becomes more difficult to exceed the expenses when the loan becomes larger. So that $300,000 range of price is very good. Usually the certainly there will be extra profit after the expenses. Um, it does not mean you cannot buy a higher priced house, but you may have to put more down so that you will fit in that equation of the rent covering all the expenses. So this is an important factor. So you can buy, of course, as whatever price house you like, but this will be a factor in whether the loan will be successful. Um, Another factor is the seasoning of the funds. So it's very important to keep them in one place for 60 days. And if at all possible, for the 30 days before the closing of the transaction, it's a very good idea to have the funds in a US based account. Now, that can mean a US bank, it can mean a stock brokerage, it can mean the attorney's account, the escrow account. Because there will be some verification of the funds. And so the longer you have them in a place where they're easy to verify, the easier for the loan to close. So if you wait till the last minute, it may delay closing. So this is a good way to make sure that the loan is successful. And I'm sorry, I was jotting down as I was listening here. And the mortgage includes the payment of the principal amount, the payment of the interest, and as the Mola mentioned, there is tax and insurance. So how these foreign investor loans work is you will pay with your mortgage payment 1/12 of the annual payment of the tax or the annual payment of the insurance. So if the insurance costs 1,200 a year, each payment will include $100 of that payment. So that explains the taxes and insurance. You are paying 1/12 of the annual amount each month. So of course that is factored in as an expense, and in that case, that will affect the ratio. So that will affect the rent exceeding the expenses. So these are important factors. Um, Rent estimates are usually pretty clear here in the U.S. So the appraiser, when they appraise the property, will confirm what Damola has probably already estimated the rent to be. These are not difficult numbers to find. So usually you can see what the rent is expected to be, especially if he has access to, the real estate listing information. So you can know about what you're going to make, and you shop for a house accordingly. But then at the appraisal, the appraiser will confirm that amount. And that's the kind of last point that to get by, and then the loan should be successful from there. The rates vary a lot, and because we're a broker and we can shop the loan to various lenders, so there is a lender for almost any situation. However, the rate will vary depending on how much the down payment is, uh, how close the rent is, maybe to the expenses, or if the expenses exceed a little, that definitely will affect the rate. You can say that there is no credit needed on these, so they're not going to check any credit. They don't use U.S. You don't have to have U.S. credit, and they're not going to check your foreign credit. So foreign investor loans do not have credit. The visa used to be required for all these loans, but now it's not, which is good. So we can do these without the current U.S. visa. There is actually a third way to close. It depends on which country you're in and if you can locate a U.S. licensed lawyer. Many places in Africa will have a U.S. licensed lawyer. Usually they have a New York license, because that tends to be where foreign lawyers come and get licensed. But if they have a U.S. licensed lawyer, that will allow you to close. Also, if you are living in a country that is a member of the Hague Convention, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but in Africa, probably about 20% of the countries are in the Hague Convention, and then you can use a government notary in that country. So these are a few other ways you can close. Closings themselves, If it happens at the U.S. consulate, U.S. embassy, that's the simplest for us. As Damola mentioned, we will send you the documents, and then you'll give them to your client. The client will have the appointment at the embassy for their notary. They will go there, sign before in front of the notary. That's very, very important. If you pre-sign the documents, they will not do the notary on them. So it's important to remember they cannot sign until they're actually in front of the notary. And then they send that back to us. It usually takes 3 days to get back to us, and then the title will close in the next 2 days. So that's all pretty simple. These foreign investor loans, we have a good platform now that we can get slightly better rates. Rates have of course risen in the U.S. in the last year. I would say rates are going to be between 8 and 10%. You can, if you wish a little lower rate, we have a facility in the U.S. that you can pay a little bit of money and you can get a little bit lower rate. So that's going to be up to you. But that can also help to be sure that the rent exceeds expenses. So there is an option. If you are quoted a little bit higher rate and you say, oh, that's a little too high, then you can pay a little bit more and buy the rate down a little lower. That's an option on all of these loans. So you're not always stuck to just the rate that the bank gives you. We also will poll a number of lenders and try to get the best deal we can. It's a very simple program. I know it sounds too simple, but that's actually how it is. Does anyone are you opening this for questions or
Yeah,
do you have
questions. Yeah,
anything here?
absolutely, Francis. Thanks, Francis.
Okay.
People don't know how easy the program is itself.
Mhm.
But it's really very easy, very simple program. You just need to, okay, yeah. Ogaga, go ahead. You have a question?
Mr.
Yes.
Francis, thank you very much for the clarification. Okay. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. I have a client that is interested in outright purchase. Okay.
Okay.
For the outright purchase, do we all the insurance and every other payment are they also included in it? Can you just break down the outright purchase? Because
Okay.
all what you've said, you did not mention outright purchase. You just talked about the
Right, right,
30%
right.
down
Right,
payment
right,
and all that.
right,
So
right,
just
right.
break down the outright purchase so we'll know how it
Okay.
operates. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, sure. If if they are doing outright purchase, they don't need to get a loan. They don't need to get pay a lot of things. However, I'll recommend they get insurance on the property. The insurance is required if they're going to be renting the property out. They would also pay taxes on the property as well. So the attorney will have final figures for something like this for outright purchase. All you have to do is we connect them to the attorney. Well, we start the transaction first. When we find a house and we get final numbers in place, then the attorney gives them the final breakdown of what they'll be paying out. But an annual basis, the insurance will be required to pay on those properties as well as the taxes either way. Yeah. Did you want to add to that, Francis? Please
Before
feel
you
free.
go,
No, he's
before
correct.
you go, let me just add. Yes,
Okay.
let me just add to this, sir. Now, a client wants to buy a property outrightly. What if he decides not to rent it out? He decides to take it as his
That,
property.
I mean,
Can that
if
work?
that's
It's
fine.
up
If
to him.
it's not, yeah, it's up to him. If he's not doing a loan program, he can even just do that. He can keep it empty for 2 years if he wants to. He can do anything he wants to do. Yeah,
The truth
Francis.
is that the program is a foreign investor program, so it's
Right.
set up for rental property. But the fact is that once you buy a property, because you as a foreign investor do not have any status in the United States, so that's what allows this program to happen, because the bank is comfortable knowing that you are very likely to rent it out because you don't live
Right.
here and you don't have the status to live in the United States. However, like any properties, once you buy it, as long as you pay your loan and there's no problem with the property, then
Right.
it's kind of up to you what to do with it. Of course, renting it seems like the thing to do because then you're not just paying the mortgage. But
Right.
there is not really a penalty if it stayed open, or if you were to rent it to somebody or something. There's no penalty for that.
Right. The bank only cares to receive their money, really. So that's
Yes.
as long as you're paying them, they don't care what you do with the property.
Thank you very much. I think that answers my questions. Thank you so much, sir.
All right, sure. Thank you. Let's say, well, go ahead, please.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
this presentation. Francis, you are from the mortgage originators, right?
Yes.
So you'll be dealing with more of getting a bond for the clients,
Yes.
and you
So
the better rate for them.
well, we have, for example, how a mortgage broker works is we are the ones who are client facing. So we would take the application, we would do the pre-qualification. We have an entire system for that, for the front part of the process, the client facing part. And then when we get the completed application and we know what we have, then we will take that and we will look at, we have a very large slate of maybe 22 lenders. And so we will take that and we will look at their guidelines and look at some of their rates. And we actually have a new, even a bid platform. So we will put this out and try to get the best deal we can for this specific application, this profile.
Okay.
And we may get a few different offers, we may get a few different rates and different fees. And so then we can either, one, it's usually one is clearly the best, and we will present that. If there are a few, then we would present and say, okay, this is what we have for you.
Okay.
And again, the rate itself, as I said, they may, because of the profile, there may be a higher rate. And if the rest of that that loan looks good, maybe the client would want to pay a little more and buy the rate down a little. Those are
Okay.
called points. That's very common for
Right.
Americans, for local investors, everybody. You decide, okay, this is the rent that, I mean, this is the mortgage I want to pay, and then you pay more to buy to that level.
Okay.
You can usually buy down up to 2 points, and after that it gets a little difficult.
Okay. And in terms of do they also pay for the bond fees because they'll be applying for the bond or not with the attorneys? Are
The
they
bond
bond
fees,
fees?
for you mean
So
paying?
I think I think what she means is loan, the loan, any fees that come with the loan.
Yeah,
And that will be on the loan
they're
estimate, right? Yeah,
right, the closing costs. Loans will come with a listing. So once a lender has accepted, we say, okay, this sounds good, and the lender will accept the loan, at least for processing. Then they will send us a list of costs. These are the costs of the loan. The costs typically are the appraisal. They have to see that the property is worth that value.
Mm.
The attorney will have their costs. That's called title charges, because they have to research and make sure there is nothing wrong with the ownership papers of the property. And then they have to record all this information with the county governments. So there will be some fees for that. I would say you're probably looking at about 2% of the loan could be as fees. So if you, for every
Okay.
100,000 in loan, you probably have 2,000 in closing costs, with a minimum of about 4 or 5,000. So that's every single loan that closes in America has closing costs attached to
right.
it.
Exactly.
Okay. And in terms of the title deed, do they get the title deed after they have fully paid the bond, the loan
Yes.
amount?
You mean if
Okay.
if they have paid off the mortgage and everything is
Yes.
paid off? Yes.
Yes.
They will actually get the title as soon as they purchase the house, even with a mortgage.
Exactly.
Okay.
But also on that title will be a lien from the lender. So the lender kind of owns the house if anything happens to the
Right.
purchaser. And then once the
Mm.
purchaser has paid off the mortgage, then the title is transferred solely into their name with no one else.
Oh, okay. Can we at least get a roughly estimation of all the costs involved, like in terms of the mortgage, when someone wants to go the mortgage route? What fees will they pay extra after they have paid the 30% deposit?
Yeah, I think if you are not buying the rate down in general for a $300,000 loan, you will likely pay about $6,000 in closing.
Oh, okay.
That's just a round number. It can vary depending on the county you buy in. It can vary depending on some other things. But actual
Exactly.
costs, I would say, even if the smaller loan, you may pay slightly smaller closing, but it will not be proportionate. So if you have a $100,000 loan, you may pay 4,000. If you have a $300,000 loan, you may pay 6 or 7,000.
Okay.
And this varies depending on where you buy, the kind of house. There are some variables. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Taxes, all of that play a role in
yeah,
there
it's
too.
not, it's hard, difficult to pin down until you have a
Unless you pick a
property. Once you have a
house. Yeah,
property, we can estimate it fairly closely.
exactly.
And in terms of the new development, are they already existing or they still building? Or when
Okay,
someone
so
need a new property, are they gonna get at least about 3 months to be built or 6 months to be built, or they are already existing, they're already been built, but they are new?
both options actually exist.
Oh, okay.
So you can, yeah, you can do the one that you just build in and they can you just start, they can finish it up in 6 months, or the ones that fill out a contract and they're brand new and then people want to buy them right away. So both options exist. Also, they are the ones that are also a year old and we just get those as well. So what we do at Luvanex Realty is that we narrow it down to no more than a year if you're doing a brand new house. So if it was built last year, within the last 12 months, we still consider it new because people can want to buy, they want to move out of town for work or for anything like that. They want to sell the house. But generally speaking, both options exist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the warranty that you spoke about on what that the owner needs to pay before the tenant moves in for all the
Which warranty?
I think you spoke about there's a warranty that because of when there's issues with the house, the tenant is
Mm-hmm.
not liable.
Oh, the home warranty. No,
Yes.
that's after the tenant moves in. That is only if the tenant has a lot of problems. And if you're doing a brand new house, you won't need a home warranty because it's a brand new house and there's warranty on the property itself anyways.
Oh,
There's a 10-year warranty on like the roofing. There is a 2-year warranty and a 12-month warranty on the appliances. So you wouldn't need a warranty for a brand new house per se.
mm.
However, if you're buying a house that's 10 years old, I'd definitely recommend doing a warranty. And what we try to do is we negotiate with the seller to provide a warranty at closing for that property. That's typically what we do.
Oh, okay.
However, if that's not done, then the tenant moves into the house and the first 3 months they complain. We would say just get a warranty for it. That's better for you.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I think I'm answered. And then the commission is now paid after everything has been signed off and also the loan has been approved.
correct. At closing, when the deed has been transferred. So once the closing has been signed and all of that, and the attorney releases, so the attorney pays everybody. The attorney pays the seller of the house for the 30% sent from the client and for the 70% from the bank. They pay all of that to the seller, and then they pay the agents as well. So they pay us. Um, and there's always two agents in the mix. There's the buyer's agent and the seller's agent most times. So the attorney will also distribute checks for that and also pay the loan officer as well. So that's how it works.
Okay. And in terms of marketing, if we want to run our own marketing using your own marketing material, can we add our own like wording to make it a feel for our own clients as well? Make it attract
Just
our own
give me an
clients.
example. How do you mean exactly? Give me an example.
Let's say you have your own walk through the house, then we just add
Mhm.
our caption using our own wording, saying that we are working with this kind of company in the US. where we have partnered with them to install
Ye-
property.
Yeah. I mean, as long as our company information is there, because um, um, the real estate commission, Francis, may actually have some license requirements and all that. But are you gonna take out our logo, or would you keep that in there?
No,
What
we
would
will
you do with
show
that?
your logo as well to
Oh
ensure that.
yeah, then that's fine. There's no problem with that.
Okay,
No worries at all. Yeah,
all
I
right.
don't see anything wrong with that. Yeah.
I think I'm cleared now. Thanks.
Thank you, Lizelle. Any other questions from anybody else? You have Francis here. This is a very busy man, so we're lucky to have him. All right, Ejabofo, go ahead, sir. Or ma'am, or sir, I'm not sure. So please go ahead.
Yeah, please quickly. Thank you for your good time. I want you to clarify the aspects of the commission for the agents.
Right.
Question to Mr. Damola. I didn't
Yeah,
get you
sure.
quite right.
It's very simple. 0.5% of the sales price. That's what you make. So 0.5%. Okay? Is that
Okay,
that's
zero
as
point
simple
five
as
percent.
correct? Less than 1%.
Yeah.
That's half of 1%. Just to be clear.
Can you
Because
can you
all
confirm?
you are doing is
Okay,
making referrals, and we do the main work here in the US. Yeah, go ahead.
it's it's fine. I get you. But is that the prevailing rate for agents in the US?
Agents in the US make between 2 and 3%. So I'm telling you that you're going to make 0.5% because you referred to us. We still have to pay the agents here that worked on the transaction with us. That's different. Does that make sense?
Uh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
if you were in the
Um,
if you were in the US and you were able to do some work for the actual work for the house, then you get paid more. But because all you're doing is making a phone call, two phone calls really, then you get paid 0.5% of the commission. That's it.
well, it's okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Anybody else? Ogaga, yeah, go ahead, please.
Please, a very quick one now.
Yes.
Talking about, this is just an addition to what I asked earlier. If someone is buying a
Yeah.
property outrightly, is there any form of discount in any way, any form of
Okay.
discount per se? I just need clarification on that, please. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. If you are doing a cash purchase and the funds are verified, all of that, the seller is inclined to offer some kind of discount. We don't control what kind of discount they offer. You see, the seller owns the house solely, and they know what they want to pay, or what they want to accept for their property. It doesn't have to be full price. If it for them it's full price, everybody knows what they have to accept to walk away from a transaction that makes sense for them. For instance, that seller probably has a mortgage to pay off as well. So most times they cannot discount so heavily. But if you're making a full 100% cash offer, it is very likely that you will get a bit of a discount. I'd say that. Francis, would you agree?
Yes,
They're inclined to, yeah,
it
to give some
often
kind of
depends on the
discount.
market. If
Exactly.
right now it's still a little bit of a seller's market, so I think at this moment the discount would be small with the
Right.
difference between cash or a mortgage. Uh,
Right.
it's very likely within 2 years we'll shift back again to a
Right.
buyer's market. And at
Right.
that
Right.
point, then the discounts will be a little bit larger because the buyers have more power. And there are a lot of
Okay,
houses,
please,
and a
can
lot
I
of
just have an
buyers.
idea? Can I have an idea what the discount may look like if I'm
The
buying a property of $400,000 US?
so
Is
the
discount in percentage or in amounts?
I would say an amount. The issue is that it depends on the property, depends on the seller. We can't tell you because we are not the seller. So the seller would have to decide what makes sense for them. However, I would just say estimate about a $10,000 discount. That's about reasonable. But that's up to the seller if that makes sense for them. And if we can push harder to get a higher discount, why not? We'll push for that. But it's up to them if it makes sense for them or not. Hope that makes sense, Ogaga. All right.
All right, thank you so
Uh,
much. I think I'm clear. Thank you so much.
no problem. Mr. Ejabofo, go ahead, please.
I'm actually done with my question, please.
Okay, I think your hand was still up. Okay. Okay, just making
No, no,
sure.
no.
Okay, sir. We have a question in the chat. Someone dropped a question.
Will we be able to market the property on platforms like Property 24? Before I answer that question, let me even go more deeper into Mr. Ejabofo's a question, the first question he asked about the commission. We hire agents here that work with us in Atlanta and Charlotte. That agent makes 25% of the company's commission. The company's commission is anywhere between 2 and 3% of the sales value. So the agent that is doing the actual showings for the client and doing the recordings, all of that, that agent is paid 25, a quarter of what the company makes. Taxes also come out of the commission, so that's an estimated 25% as well. So the company is left with 50%, and that's why we are limiting what we pay out to cooperating agents as well, and that comes from the buyer. Okay, so there's a question on the chat that says, what is Property 24? What country are you calling from, Shumi? What country are you calling from, Shumi? If you can unmute and speak, that would be great. Do you know what country Shumi is in, Kenny?
No, she's calling from South Africa.
Oh, South Africa. Okay, Property 24. Is that like an MLS, or what kind of a system is that? Is that a website?
Yeah, it's more like a listing system where we market our properties. We put them on the
Okay.
Property 24, and then people have inquiries. It come directly to us as well, instead of using also social media.
Okay, I have to check out what kind of platform it is, because see, each of these properties belong to actual companies that are listed then. So we don't want any kind of clash with the listings. There are laws that protect those companies. So as long as there are no violations, and we are under contract, then you can put it on there as a marketing tool for your company. However, to just outright list somebody else's property, that may actually cause some problems, because they are there are very strict laws of licensure in the US, is what I'm trying to say. And so if you have a firm like Keller Williams or Remax that has a listing, and then you give that over to, and you have somebody else market it on a different platform without their exclusive, without their consent, and they have an exclusive rights to market it, then that creates problems. So we have to look at the exclusivity in there as well. That's the problem.
Okay.
Francis, would you agree on that, Francis?
Yes, because partially
Yeah.
it is the listing services here. There's only a few that actually control that
Exactly.
market, and they have agreements with realtors, licensed realtors in each state, and
Exactly.
some national ones. You know, just like the MOLA has licensing in 2 states, Georgia and Charlotte,
Right.
in North Carolina, where we are, and so he has his license allows him to use that listing service, and it's a kind of exclusive contract. So
Right.
I think I don't know if what the factors would be to be able to do that. I'm not sure, but it is very exclusive to licensing and state licensing.
Right. There are very strict requirements in the US. But if it's something that we already have on the contract, you can remarket it and use it to, to show that you're doing business in the US. That's fine with me, but we have to be on the contract. There's some kind of connection before we can use that material. I saw someone's face. Terry, I saw your face just now. Did you have a question, Terry?
No, not at all. I'm good.
Okay, good. Cool. But
Thank you.
if there are no other questions, we can come to the end of today's presentation. I want to thank you guys for joining. And if you have any other questions, I'm on all the platforms, all the groups. Send me a message. Let's see how we can work together, and you make some good money. So why not?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you all
Hello?
for having me. And if you have questions about financing, please just send them to Damola. I'll be happy to answer.
Francis, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Okay.
All right. Did you have a question for Francis, Terry?
No, not for you. I just
Okay,
I want
sure,
to
no
clarify
problem.
something. I know
Sure.
basically
Thanks,
it's
Francis. You
more
can,
of
if you want to leave, you can leave. All right. Yeah, bye. Yeah, go ahead.
okay. Now I know basically it's more for the US, Atlanta, and like you said, and if it has to be in other states, you can partner with other um,
Right.
realtors there, other firm, people with their license there to sell. Okay, now is there a way can we touch maybe the UK, Canada?
Ooh,
Can we partner with other person there?
those are different countries. I have partners in Canada, but not in the UK. We were thinking of opening a branch of our business in the UK. Someone actually proposed that to run it for us in the UK, but the truth is I don't have the bandwidth now. But I'll be willing to look into that. See, let me just tell you guys what's happening. Nigerians buy in a few countries primarily. The UK is number one, the US is number two, Dubai is number three, and Dubai has now put all kinds of barriers for Nigerians to come in. So that
Yeah.
business has been cut down. And then South Africa is number four. These are the four countries I've seen that Nigerians buy a lot of houses in. In the UK, property values are very expensive. They are side by side New York and California expensive. It's so expensive in New York that what you would buy, and then the houses in the UK are so small. They are the value for money in the US is what I'm trying to say is that you can't even compare. The value for money is way higher. You buy bigger houses for less amount of money in the US. The UK has no more space except you go to the outskirts. So the only way to build is up, one direction up. That makes everything so expensive. But in the US, there's land everywhere. And there are just three states in the US that have decent bargains as far as money. That's Georgia, Texas, and North Carolina is now the one coming into that as well. And we are licensed in two over three of that. Now, Nigerians buy in a few states in the US. They buy in Maryland, they buy in New Jersey, New York, they buy in where else? Chicago. Those places are all expensive. You're not going to find the same value for money. You can do the comparisons. Just go online, do a regular search, average price of a house in Georgia, compare that with the average house you buy in Chicago, average price of house you'd buy in New York, in Maryland, and you see what I'm talking about. It's a no-brainer. You would not find the exact same thing. Now, in the US, people like to have direct flights. There's a connection, Lagos to Atlanta, direct flight, you're there in 12 hours. Um, there is a flight, no direct flights from Abuja to Atlanta, but there is a direct flight from Accra to Atlanta, a direct flight from Nairobi, I believe, to Atlanta, a direct flight from Johannesburg to Atlanta. So Africans look at all of these connections where I have to do all this travel, they hate it. And so the more direct it is, the quicker, the better for them. The UK, which would have been where they buy the most, has doubled in pricing. And the rental value you would make is not anywhere comparable to what you make in the US. So that's the catch. So just tell the investor, do your research, check the market in the UK, compare that market to the US, they'll come back to you. I guarantee it. We have investors now selling houses off in the UK, buying houses in the US. That's how bad it is because the value just doesn't make any sense. So if you want to buy a three-bedroom house for £500,000, when you could have used that same money to buy two houses in the US, you decide and make exact more returns in the US. So I hope I answered that question a little bit, Terry. But we have partners in Canada. I have that for sure. We have in Toronto, we have in Calgary, and we have in Vancouver. Vancouver is very expensive. Extremely, you wouldn't buy a house less than $1 million in Vancouver. I guarantee it. Very expensive. So you need to be in that 300 to $400,000 price point, whereby you can get a very nice house that would appreciate in value. That's what the appeal is here. But I hope I answered that question. Any other questions, Terry? Yeah. Hey man, for making a couple of phone calls, what do you have to lose? If you have clients already, just shoot them our way and we'll see if it works out. If it doesn't work out, fine. If it works out, why not? You get paid. It's the same kind of clients you already have, just present the offer to them. And some clients request that we show them sample properties. We can do that as well. Let me actually try to see if I can show you guys a few properties while I have you guys on the phone. Cool. Second.
Is it possible to get pictures of this product?
Yeah. And I'll show you a couple of options. I'll show you a couple of ways to do that. We actually have them online. And I want to pull up a couple of things for you so that you can see what I'm talking about. Give me 1 second.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm gonna go to Canopy. So on our website itself, if you've been to our website, you'd see that we actually have um, options on how you can pull up properties by itself on our website, and I'll show you that option as well. Um, okay. So let me do a screen share. Let me know when you can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
No, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can.
Yes, you can.
All right. So this is what my dashboard looks like for my realtor dashboard, my broker dashboard. If I want to pull up a house, I have all these variables that I can use to pull up a house in the US. This is in Charlotte, North Carolina. I can do a single family house. I can do a townhouse. A townhouse are the ones that are joined together. Okay. The single family homes are separated properties, but I can just go here and do a price point and pull up properties from 300 to 450,000 US dollars. You can see that I have 4,000 matches here already. I can narrow it down to a city and just say I'm doing Charlotte, which is we call it a Queen City. Now I have 902 properties. I can narrow it down further and say I want to buy a property that has 3 or more bedrooms. Now it gives me 848 matches. I can narrow it down to county or zip codes. Let me do my zip codes, a few zip codes. Zip codes are like our postal codes in the UK. So I have 79 houses based on this 2 zip codes. I can pull up a whole bunch of these properties, and these are all houses that are for sale, different price points here. You can see the prices here. I can go further into a single property and do a house like this. This is built in 2005. So this is too old for me, but I see all the variables here. I can set up a showing, which is what the agents do here. The agents are the ones that do all the work here. They would have to go and do a showing, and then go based on the time, go pick it up and go do all that stuff. Let me reduce the criteria a little bit more. The year it was built, I want to do 2010. I have 30 matches. So from 2010, going back 13 years, this is 2023. So these are townhomes. Look at this house. This is for sale. The price of this property is $449,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. This is the size of the property. I can show you the interior, what it looks like, all of that. So this is what your clients will get when we begin to send them properties for sale. They will get these listings on a weekly basis. We'll send them every other day or every 3 days. We'll just send them a whole bunch of properties. This is what houses in the US look like. Beautiful houses. And then this same property, I can either compare it to another property These are properties in the same neighborhood. This is a different property. This is what this one looks like. Shows you the interior. All of these pictures. We have a house for rent in a subdivision like this that we just rented out. Beautiful houses in that neighborhood. Dear week. Now let me show you how you can do the exact same thing, Terry, on our website. If you go on our website, you go to search listings, you could do Charlotte. This will show you the criteria. We're going to expand this so that you can see a few more things here. But the exact same criteria you saw me plugging in on the other screen on here, those same criterias are available over here. So everything that you see me do here was summarized on here, Terry. You can go here and do a residential property. Click on that. You can do minimum price and choose you want something worth 305 to maximum price. You want something up to 450,000 US dollars. You want the year built to be from 2010. Okay. You want it to be up to 2017. You can do number of bedrooms, 3 bedrooms or more, 5 bedrooms. All of these variables I'm plugging in are going to give me similar outputs and outcomes. I can do a search here and I'm seeing, okay, it just brought out a few options, but I'm seeing options here already. So these are, you can send this to your client just on the website. What we're going to do is to expand this bandwidth here so that you can see a whole lot more stuff. And click on the listing to understand more about the listing. To the picture, then you have notes here, residential on the contract, no show. You can, it tells you the location on the map as well. All of that information is on here. We're just going to expand that. The only thing that we get here is that it is a much more robust database that we get because we own the rights to access of the database. So I hope I answered that question, Terry. Terry, I don't know if you can hear me, but these are
Yes,
examples of
yes, I
brand new
can. I
homes.
can.
So if
I
you're,
heard you perfectly.
yeah, if you're doing a brand new home, it's gonna show something called under construction here. This is a brand new home. It's under construction. So when you see under construction, it's gonna tell you it's gonna be completed April 18th, 2024. This is the date to be completed
Estimate
at.
meaning estimated date of
Completion.
readiness,
Completion.
right? Of
Right.
completion here.
Yeah, but it shows you what it looked like on the outside. If I move all the way inside, it's the same floor plan. It
That's
looks
more or
the
less like
exact
the
same.
3D view, right?
No, this is an actual view of the interior of the property. It just shows you the outside as what it will look like because they've already built properties like this that are standing already being
Okay,
purchased by
okay,
investors. They're just showing you that this is an option as well. That's how it works. So we've
okay.
already seen, yeah, so that's how it works. Yeah.
All right.
So
All right.
any other questions, guys? I need to wrap up the meeting now to go do something else. Lots of options, lots of options. Beautiful houses, modern looking, clean houses.
Obviously, they are.
Yeah. So townhouses are the ones that are joined together. I think you guys call them terraces. We call them
Yeah. Okay.
townhouses. Yeah.
Okay.
And
You
every
call them
house will come,
townhouses?
right. A regular house will come
Sound
with
like is it
townhouse.
TOWN?
Yeah, townhouse, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it will come with a range, an oven like this to come with a microwave. Some houses come with a refrigerator that will be right here, but there will be a dishwasher somewhere here as well. It comes with those options. It comes with a fireplace as well, a built-in fireplace. You can see the wood floors. The wood floors are prepared for tenancy. If you want to rent the property out, we don't recommend you do carpet. We recommend you do wood floors because you can rent it out a long time. They don't get destroyed easily. If you have carpets in the downstairs of a rental property, they would have to change the carpet out every 3 or 4 years. So this carpet is good for the bedrooms because the bedrooms are more cozy and all of that. But for the downstairs, it's not sustainable. Yeah. So guys, let me stop here. I think we've done a good job today.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, I want to thank you again for making out time to be a part of this presentation. Any questions you have, send me a message. Kenny as well is available. I look forward to working with you guys and doing some business together. Thank you and God bless you guys. All right. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Let's have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. It was an impactful. What are you doing? Yes. Yeah, I don't want cooking it. Huh? You know how to cook beans? What is showing me that? Okay. I entered, I did not see it. I just thought to call your name. Okay.